Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to give my review of WCW's Halloween Havoc 1992. Starting off the evening, we're going to our first match of the night. It is a six-man tag team matchup. It is Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, and Michael P.S. Hayes versus the Z-Man, Johnny Gunn, and Shane Douglas. I thought this was a good opening matchup to start Halloween Havoc 92. Back and forth matchup between both teams, with Arn and Johnny Gunn both starting the match for the respective teams. Z-Man, Gunn, and Douglas were keeping the pace of the match, with Z-Man working on the legs of Bobby Eaton. Eaton then gets up, hits a knee drop off the top rope on Shane Douglas. Eaton then applies a figure four leg lock on Douglas, but the hold is broke. And then Johnny Gunn ultimately hits a Lou Thez press on Michael P.S. Hayes, pins him for the 3. And your winners of the match are Z-Man, Johnny Gunn, and Shane Douglas. Hats off to Z-Man, Johnny Gunn, and Shane Douglas for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Brian Pillman. Again, I thought this was a really good matchup. Back and forth matchup between Steamboat and Pillman, with Pillman landing devastating chops on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in the middle of the ring. Ricky then lands chops of his own on Pillman. Ricky and Pillman both exchange in the middle of the ring, with Ricky hitting a sunset flip off the top rope into a roll-up on Pillman for a near fall. And Ricky then hits another roll-up on Pillman, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Hats off to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship in a no disqualification match. It is Vader versus Nikita Koloff. I thought this was a good matchup as well. Back and forth matchup between Vader and Koloff, with Vader landing devastating punches on Koloff in the corner. Vader was keeping the pace of the match. Vader then hits Nikita Koloff with a chair shot on the outside. Vader then hits a devastating choke slam on Koloff in the middle of the ring. And then Vader ultimately hits his signature power bomb on Nikita Koloff, pins him for the 3. And your winner of the match is Vader. Hats off to Vader for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the WCW Tag Team Championships. It is the Natural Dustin Rhodes and Barry Windham versus Dr. Death Steve Williams and Steve Austin. Again, I thought this was a good matchup. Back and forth matchup between both teams. Williams ends up hitting a 3-point stance on Dustin Rhodes. Rhodes then gets up, hits a devastating lariat on Austin. Williams and Windham both exchange in the middle of the ring. Williams and Austin are keeping the pace of the match. Williams then hits a power slam for a near fall. Rhodes then lands a bionic elbow. Williams then hits a lariat on Windham. Austin then goes for the cover, pins for the 3. And at first, your winners of the match were Dr. Death Steve Williams and Steve Austin. Referee says no, Windham wasn't tagged in. Then all of a sudden, the match continues. Rhodes then hits a tombstone pile driver, but the match ultimately ends in a time limit draw. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. It is Rick Rude versus Masahiro Chono. I thought this was a great match. Back and forth matchup between Rude and Chono, with Rude keeping the pace of the match. Chono was working on injuring Rude's back throughout the match. Rude and Chono both exchange in the middle of the ring. Chono applies an STF on Rude, and your winner of the match is Chono. After the match, Harley Race says no because Chono threw Rude over the ropes and reversed the decision on this match, and Rude wins the match by disqualification. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night as well. It is for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. It is Ron Simmons versus the Barbarian. I thought this was a good matchup as well. Back and forth matchup between Simmons and Barbarian, with Simmons keeping the pace of the match. Barbarian then hits a headbutt off the top rope on Simmons for a near fall, but Ron Simmons ultimately hits his signature power slam on the Barbarian, pins him for the 3, and your winner of the match, and at that time, still WCW World Heavyweight Champion, is Ron Simmons. Hats off to Ron Simmons for getting the win in that matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It is the main event of Halloween Havoc 1992. It is Jake the Snake Roberts versus Sting in a coal miner's glove match. Number one, I thought this was a good matchup. I'm not a big fan of the gimmick matches, though, but I thought it was a decent match. Back and forth matchup between Roberts and Sting, with Sting keeping the pace of the match. Sting ultimately grabs the coal miner's glove, ends up hitting Jake the Snake Roberts with the glove. while Roberts was holding a snake. The snake ended up biting Jake Roberts in the ring. Sting goes for the cover, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Sting. A couple of things I'm going to say about Halloween Havoc 1992, man, before I get out of here. Number one, it was a decent event. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a solid event or the best, WCW event I've ever seen, but it damn sure was not the worst. I mean, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Brian Pillman, it was a solid match, back and forth matchup between Pillman and Steamboat. Rick Rude versus Masahiro Chono for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, again, was a solid matchup. Chono, an absolute legend. Rick Rude, a legend in his own right. And the match itself was a really good matchup, with Rude ultimately getting the win by disqualification. Ron Simmons versus the Barbarian. It was a decent match, but I kind of feel like Ron Simmons was kind of carrying the match, in my honest opinion, against Barbarian. And then Jake the Snake Roberts versus Sting in the Coal Miner's Glove match. I mean, I get it. It's Halloween Havoc. I'm just not a really big fan of the gimmick matches. I think they're awful. And I've seen WCW put on a lot of gimmick matches throughout the years that they were in existence that were just brutal ideas. I don't know who came up with them, but they were just brutal ideas. And this was one of them, man. The Coal Miner's Glove match, I was not a big fan of. But Sting ended up getting the victory in that match over Jake the Snake Roberts. As far as a rating for Halloween Havoc 1992, man, I'm going to give it a solid rating of a 4, maybe 4.5 at best. Like I said, wasn't the worst WCW event I've ever seen, but it damn sure was not the best. So I'm going to have to give Halloween Havoc a rating of a 4, 4.5 for Halloween Havoc 1992. But this is my review of Halloween Havoc 1992. I hope you guys are out there staying safe, be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.